Hey guys, welcome to What If Fanfictions. This video is going to be an interesting one as we are going to see how a man from our world is going to live when he is sent to Marvel Universe. This is second part of I Reborn in Marvel World. Marvel Gamer Path. Now without wasting any more time, let's start. After my miraculously recovery from the apparently unavoidable impalation, Jean left probably to where Magneto was. Immediately after that, Scott got in my face, demanding to know what I knew, and why I had considered killing Jean. Tell me. Scott screamed, his face red in anger as he did so. There is nothing to tell, I answered with a sigh, glaring at him. Keep bothering me though, and I will have a reason to beat you up. Scott growled, moving his hand to his visor, but before he did so, Beast stopped him. Scott, that's enough. Beast ordered, making the annoying brat to step back. I understand Scott can be a bit too much, but we need to know what you know. Raven, who was standing behind me, said, her arms crossed as she took a seat on the debris around. It wouldn't change a thing, it never mattered what I knew, I sighed, running my hands through my hair as I did so. What Jean is becoming, is beyond our comprehension. Aurora flew into the house through the hole my landing had done, and looking into my eyes said, "You're afraid, you were also afraid in the ship about something, you knew this was gonna happen." I looked at her, surprised she made that connection. I had an idea of what was gonna happen, I nodded. "You bastard!" Scott roared, punching me in the face, but as he did so, I grabbed his arm, and with a twist pushed him to the ground where I slammed my knee into his back, dislocating it. "Punch me again, and Charles will need to lend you a wheelchair," I spat. "Or even better, maybe you two can share one." "Enough!" Charles shouted as I rolled my eyes. Taking a deep breath, I pondered over my options as Charles, with the help of Kurt, teleported to where we were. My options were keeping them in the dark, or telling them. Both paths had their consequences. One would change a lot of how things would play out, or maybe it wouldn't. The other would keep things the same way, or at least similar to how I knew them. You know what? Fuck it, I will tell you guys what little I know, but know this, nothing I say will change or help Jean, only Jean can help herself. I sighed, as I released Scott from my hold, who was in pain. Charles looked at me surprised. "Perhaps that's just how you see it." "What a fool, if only he knew." "Well, he will. Oh well, as soon as this shit ends, I will leave. That fucker won't see me ever again after this." Jean has always been a powerful mutant. We all know that. I started getting a few nods from the people around. The thing you guys don't know about is that she's more than that, by a wide margin. You see, our universe is big, very big, and some individuals are entities beyond our comprehension, beyond our power to stop. What does this stupid fairy tale have to do with Jean? Scott growled, his dislocated arm swinging like a hose. God, I hate this guy. Everything, I chuckled. I don't know since when, but Jean is connected to one of this entity's many call gods. Is this why she's acting like this? Charles asked, interested in what I was saying. I can't really tell, I sighed. This entity is powerful, very powerful, and it's connected to Jean, and Jean alone. As we speak, her strength is rising, and at one point she will have the power to end worlds with a snap of her fingers. That's how powerful her connection to the Phoenix Force is. Phoenix Force? Raven muttered. Yes, I can't say for sure, but the Phoenix Force was born at the dawn of the universe, hence why many call this entity the child of the universe. It's older than our entire solar system, and more powerful than any of you can imagine, and it's also the reason Jean is alive, I said, taking a seat on the ground. What do you mean? Beast inquired. Well, without her connection to the Phoenix Force, she would have died in that mission we took, or against Apocalypse. The Phoenix Force is immortal, and for the most part, so are its hosts. Hosts? Aurora said, tilting her head. Yes, from what I know, the Phoenix Force is a multiversal singularity. I nodded. Do you know what that means? Before she could reply, Beast interjected, it means, this entity you speak of exists in every possible universe, right? Yes, I nodded, but in every universe this entity is the same, for there is only one Phoenix Force, but many hosts. How do you know all this? Charles muttered. I have my ways, but enough about that, I sighed. Jean's connection to the Phoenix Force entered a changing point during that mission, and now there is no stopping her. Is there a way to break her connection to this entity? Scott asked. I didn't think he would believe me. No, that I know of. You have to understand, we can't stop the Phoenix Force. Its power would wipe not only us, but every living being on this planet without batting an eye. Jean, in a way, is the only thing between us and extinction, I answered. Is this why you wanted to kill her? Pietro, who I hadn't noticed was behind me, asked. Yes, and no. I thought for a brief moment, on the possibility of. I struggled to find the words. Of eliminating the threat before it was too powerful to handle. Raven, however, found them. You and Eric would be great friends. Why do they keep comparing me to Magneto? Yes, look, I don't have anything against any of you. Well, I do now against Charles and Scott, but that's because they are big bitches, but against the rest, nothing, but. I am a father, no by choice, but by the circumstances that led me to Emily, and, well, I had to consider every possible choice. I sighed. I mean, realistically speaking, Scott, if the only way to save Jean was to kill me, would you do it? Scott looked at me, and with a sigh answered, yes, without a question. Then you can understand my reasoning, I chuckled. I can understand, but no killing, or I will tell Emily you have been a bad daddy. Aurora smirked. As if I could. I would have better luck trying to kill Magneto with a metal knife than Jean at all, I snorted. After my little reveal to the X-Men about Jean's situation, we took the X-Jet and regrouped on the X-Mansion, where we started to plan and discuss the situation in more depth. She almost killed Raven. Hank shouted, slamming his furry fist against the wall. Had it not been for him, he pointed at me, the one impaled would have been Raven. He almost whispered the last part, scared to even speak of that possibility out loud. Yet, she didn't. Charles replied, looking at Hank. Jean knew what she was doing to some extent. At this I raised my hand. Yeah, no, he's right. Had it not been for me, Raven would have turned into a mutant Suvlaki, I stated. Look, the only reason she wasn't impaled it because I used my body as a shield, and my telekinesis to protect her body. Had I not do that, we both would have ended as a mutant rich filled with nutrients Suvlaki. Is this all a joke to you? Scott growled, his arm now better thanks to Beast. Not really, but what else am I supposed to do? Cry? I rolled my eyes. Jean would have never killed Raven, Charles said, his tone firm. Not on purpose, but she's not doing anything on purpose anymore, is she? Professor, my ass, this guy has to be on the top 10 more stupid people I have met. Let's stop fighting for a moment, and think about how we can help Jean. Raven, who had remained silent until now, decided to interject. Is there any other place she would go in a time like this? I asked. Not that we know of. Aurora muttered. Any mutant-friendly places she could hide. I knew where she was, I just didn't want to have any more flags above my head. They were already questioning how the fuck did I know about the Phoenix Force, The last thing I want is to give the bald bastard a new reason to try and mind ***** me. She could be with Eric, Raven mumbled in realization, her eyes wide at this. Finally, someone got the bait I put out there. That seems plausible. I nodded, a smile on my face. You knew that? Charles muttered. You knew about Jean's condition, you knew about her possible location. Was he reading my surface thoughts again? That's fucking it. That's it, I am done with your self-righteous bullshit, I growled, slamming my fist into the table, breaking it in half as I pushed the professor of his chair with my telekinesis. I am gone, I will fix things my way. You're not going not anywhere, Scott threatened, his right hand on his visor, ready to blast me at any given moment. Go ahead, take the shot, I guarantee you, it will be the last. This entire place was a lie, a house of cards to stroke Charles's ego, and I was tired of his bullshit, as I was with Scott's. Why are none of you bothered by this? Charles inquired from the floor, turning to Raven and then Hank. He knows more, and he refuses to tell us. I know things, many awful things, I admitted with a bitter laugh. But what I know about Jean, I already shared with all of you. But yes, I thought for a moment she was with Eric, based on your history with the guy, but I wasn't sure this was also true. With the change of the timeline as it is now, I wasn't sure she had a reason to go with Magneto of all people. All I knew is that this was still a possibility, nothing more. But frankly, I am tired of this bullshit with you, Charles. You talk about morality, about how we have to be accepted, about how we must follow the rules, yet when the situation for you to be everything you supposedly stand against arises, you don't hesitate to take it. I mean, Charles, is it morality okay to violate my mind just because you think I have information that could help Jean? If I had any, I would share it, not because I care for her, I don't give a fuck about her, but because I care for Emily. I roared at the end. Alex. Aurora sighed, her hand on my shoulder for support. Well, I said what I had to say, and now I am gone. I waved at them, giving the bird to Scott and Charles as I started to walk out of the office. I said Dante Laser Boy didn't get to finish, as I slapped him with enough strength to double him over, forcing him to spit a teeth. Please, don't leave, Raven said, intercepting me at the exit. I won't stay and help while that guy, I pointed at Charles, reads my mind like a fucking newspaper. Surface thoughts or not, they are my thoughts. He has no right to read them without permission. He won't do that again, Raven promised. Isn't that right, Charles? Charles sighed, looking exasperated, angry even at what Raven was asking him. I suppose I can agree to that. As if I was going to believe that. Agree? I laughed. You don't have a choice, because believe. Next time you forcibly read my mind in the idiotic idea I know something that can magically fix Jean, well, let's just say I will push your wheelchair down the Nizan Mountain stairs, and we'll see how good you do then. I smiled. And regardless of that, I am done with this. I will help, but far away from this worm. None of that. Raven frowned. I know he does stupid things, believe me, I know, but this macho thing of threatening others, it has to stop. It's not a threat, Raven, it's a promise. I meant every word I said, and I know you guys will protect him, but I will still do it if he does this shit again. Heck, just this once. Read my mind, Charles, and see how determined I am. I smiled at him. Anyways, we must contact Eric, Hank said, breaking the conversation. You guys do that, I will do something else on my part, I informed them. What? Aurora asked. Well, a power this big is bound to have idiots trying to control it. Idiots I need to assess, I answered. Do you think someone is hunting Jean? Charles asked, worry settling on his face. Yep, I nodded, walking out of the room. I walked out the X-mansion with one goal in hand, to find Magneto. Yes, I had told the others I would go and see if someone was hunting Jean's power, but that was all a lie. I already knew who was hunting Jean, the D-Barry, an alien race I didn't know much about. What can I say? I was Marvel fan, but not one to know it all. All I knew about the D-Barry was that they were shapeshifters and that they could not be affected by telepathy. Beyond that, I was on the blind about them. Anyhow, my real mission was enlisting Magneto, because if the movie was anything to go by, the D-Barry were naturally stronger than me, at least their leader, Vuk, and with Charles being as useless as an ass-flavored lollipop against them, I needed the next best heavyweight, aka Magneto. Which would be relatively easy considering I had stolen the information about where he was from Beast's computer. The man has 5 college degrees and still uses the most basic password ever, the name of the one he loves, RavenXBeast123. I mean, really. It's like he was asking to be hacked, which I did. Back to the subject at hand. After getting the information I required to find Magneto, I hijacked a private jet near the airport and flew towards the location I had, where supposedly Magneto was. Upon arrival, I was greeted by the community of mutants in a rather aggressive tone. Some ran, others were ready to find. I come in peace, he. I always wanted to say that. Who are you? I looked at who had asked that and smiled. Ariki LV68. My name is Alex, and I am a mutant, I replied, still wondering if I truly was a mutant, or that was simply how whoever gave me this power hid it. Why are you here? Ariki asked in a growl, frowning as he did so. With a smile, I took a step forward and said, I am here to talk with Eric. It's quite important, it's about his friends. Ariki glared at me, his hair twitching. It seemed fighting was unavoidable. He is not here, leave. So much for a mutant-friendly community, I chuckled, taking a deep breath. Look, you look like a great guy, very responsible too, but I won't leave until I talk with him. Once I tell him what I have to tell him, I will leave. With him if destiny smiles upon me. I said before Ariki could finish that sentence. Someone stopped him. I'll take it from here, it was no other than Eric, the master of magnetism himself. Eric Leonshare, Magneto LV170. Glaring at me a last time, Ariki nodded, leaving Eric as he approached me. With a smile, I waved at him and said, my name is Alex, and I need to talk to you about something rather important. Eric looked at me, as if pondering about whether to force me to leave or to hear me out. Fine, you have 5 minutes, and then you leave. We don't have the authorities coming here for you and that stolen jet. 5 minutes, PFF, all I need is 10 seconds, okay, I will give you the short version. Charles is an idiot, Raven almost died, Jean became the host of a powerful entity, and now we are at the brink of extinction. Either by Jean losing control of her newfound enormous power, or by those who are hunting said power for themselves, the D-Barry who may or may not be able to control the power, I can't really tell. Eric stared at me, unmoving, processing all the information I had thrown at him, and for a moment I wondered if I had broken the man. Raven almost died. Oh good, he's still with us. Yes. Jean almost killed her, but I saved her, got impaled in the process, but I heal fast, I nodded. Eric once again seemed at a loss for words. What did Charles do? About Jean? I asked and he nodded. Well, he tried to stop her with his powers, but she's beyond his telepathy, I sighed. I'm surprised you are not questioning the validity of my information. I know a liar when I see it, and you are not lying, Eric sighed. I take it you came here for my help, and I can't see why. Charles once again has lost control over the situation. That's about right, I nodded. To think she would. Raven, Eric sighed, unable to complete any of his words. Look, I'll be honest, with Charles being nothing but a cripple in this fight, I need you. We have to stop Jean from losing control of her powers and the D-Barry from using her powers to their advantage. I sighed. Who the fuck are the D-Barry? Eric asked. All I know is, they are from outer space, and their planet was destroyed by the very force Jean now holds within her, I answered. Very well, Eric nodded, filled with resolve, as a helmet flew towards him at great speed. We have a brat to stop, and a world to save, let's go. Well, that was easy. Well, the jet is that way, I pointed with a smile. Ariki? Eric called. Yes. Ariki answered, coming out of the bushes. Come, we are leaving, Eric ordered. I heard what he said, and if this is true, he has my support. Well, who would have thought dealing with ex-terrorists would be easier than dealing with Charles? I have a question. Eric turned to look at me. Why are you angry with Charles? Is it that obvious? I asked, and he nodded. Well, he forced himself into my mind, and while he didn't see much, well, it was a violation of all trust. Also, he seems to think I know a way to magically fix Jean. All I knew about her and her power I already shared. Eric chuckled. That's why I use this helmet. He pointed at his helmet. Charles is a good guy, but, well, sometimes he forgets that. I suppose, I shrugged, walking towards the stolen jet. Convincing Magneto was surprisingly easy, barely an inconvenience. The guy believed what I said right from the bat, no doubts at all, which was refreshing and relieving, for I had no idea how to convince him otherwise. What really didn't make any sense was why Akiri was coming. I mean, no offense, but what will Hair do against? Well, everything right now. Beyond that, I couldn't help but wonder how the events coming would play out. After all, timeline-wise things were out of control. I mean, it was more than obvious Jean didn't come to Eric this time. He had confirmed so himself, meaning I had no idea where she actually was at this point. In the movie originally she went to Eric after killing Raven, a bold move if you ask me, then to the streets or a bar, where she met Vuk, the leader of the D-Barry. In all honesty, I didn't know what would happen now, and I only hoped the D-Barry hold on her wasn't that strong. Otherwise this mission would be a bit too out of my depth. This power she acquired, can it be controlled? Eric asked, as I flew the jet. No idea, I answered, sighing at my lack of knowledge about the Phoenix Force. All I know is that each passing second, Jean is one step closer to, well, godhood. And our extinction, one step closer for both if she didn't let go of her darkest emotions. And we are one step closer to our extinction, Eric said, his eyes fixed on the wall of the jet. Yes, I nodded, but there is a possibility she learns to control it, and doesn't kill us. Like in the movie, though in the movie she ascends to a higher plane, but that's still better than total annihilation. A possibility I won't take, Eric replied, his tone firm and cold. I could already tell what he was thinking. He wanted to kill her. Not to burst your bubble, but you won't be able to kill her, I snorted, getting a glare from Ariki. Look, I would have a better chance of killing you with a metal knife than you killing her. She's basically immortal at this point. The ones we have to kill are the D-Barry. Those bastards are within our power reach. Eric chuckled. You would have zero chance of killing me with a metal knife. Yes, but that's still a million times better than my chances with Jean and Nuke. I rolled my eyes. So, the D-Barry. Eric sighed, and I nodded. Will killing them stop our possible extinction? It would. Jean, while unstable, doesn't really want to kill us. Had she really wanted that, she would have snapped my neck with a simple move of her hand, during our last fight. Her powers are simply out of control. Now, the Debari, they want to kill all life on Earth to colonize it, using Jean's powers to do so. I sighed, so, yes, killing them would save us, and the rest is up to Jean. I see, Eric said. One question. Why did you fight with Scott again? In order, or the most prominent one? I asked with a chuckle. In what? Eric chuckled. Well, I guess in order it is, I chuckled back. First, he didn't want to host my baby girl on the X-Mansion. Why are you leaving your daughter there? Eric inquired, his interest piqued. I suppose I can tell you, I sighed, realizing that if anyone could understand my situation, it was him. I was a normal guy not so long ago, heck, I didn't even have a daughter, but then Hydra happened. Eric tensed, his eyes flashing with anger. I know of them. Yep, I nodded. They kidnapped me, you know, 'cause of my powers. Then they started to try and break me, you know, the basic physical torture and stuff. Spoiler alert, it didn't work out as they intended, so they resorted to other methods. Your daughter? Eric growled. Yep, they assigned Emily to me, with the following information and instructions. Their entire family was dead, and I was now her family. They appealed to my emotions, and it worked. Remembering those times, it really hurt. My new living conditions were rather straight. Disobey, she explodes. Don't perform as expected, she explodes. Talk back to us, and well, you know. And you left her with Charles, so that you could hunt them down, right? Eric said, and I had to admit, the guy was connecting the door beautifully. Yes, and no, I replied. My plan was to train my powers to be strong enough to wipe them off the earth. After this, if you need a hand, count on me. Eric said after a while. I know you are out of this killing business. I don't want to be the reason why you go back to it, I replied with a smile on my face. This is beyond that. Hydra kidnaps our kind, experiments on them, and everyone hates them. No one will care about their deaths. Eric stated, and he had a point. You know what, sure, I might need you for a raid or two, especially against Bucky and his metal arm. He is Emily like us? Araki asked, and boy did he startle me. I had completely forgotten he was with us. He must be a close relative to Drax. Not to my knowledge, I answered, but, knowing Hydra, perhaps they had a plan for Emily when she got older. Maybe she does have a mutation, or maybe she's just what she is. I don't care. I love her anyways. Even after you were forced to take care of her? Araki asked. I do. At first I didn't know what to think, or how to handle the situation, but with time, I accepted I was a father now, not by choice but by the circumstances of my life, I answered. I see now why Scott hates you. You wanted to kill Jean, and he found out. Eric chuckled, and I'll be honest, I had completely forgotten that was the main point of our conversation. Yes. I mean, when she was at her weakest, it was the most logical choice, or at least the one with less shit on the way. I sighed. Eliminating the threat before it becomes one. I can understand that. Eric nodded. We're here, Araki said, pointing at the GPS. Then let's say hi. I chuckled, readying for combat, or should I say combat at this point. We arrived at where Magneto's source had seen Jean, and immediately I summoned my dagger from the inventory. Around, the air was cold, winter-like almost, with a chill that permeated the air in a grim tone, sending shivers down everyone's spine. The streets were busy as always, but even then, they were abnormally silent, as if sound itself knew what was about to happen. "Eric, you don't have to do this," I heard Raven say, as she came into view. "We don't have to hurt her." Magneto looked at her, amused. "I am not here to hurt her, Raven, but to ensure she doesn't bring forth the end of our time." "You recruited him," Scott hissed. "With Charles not being able to do anything, he is the best." "I mean, what is Charles supposed to do? Roll over them with his wheelchair until they surrender?" I rolled my eyes. "Who are you talking about?" Charles, who was just now coming into view, asked. "The aliens that want to use Jean for their nefarious purposes," I replied. "Charles. Now step aside, and let us deal with this," Eric said, floating towards where Jean was. "If Jean is being used, we must save her," Beast said, as I walked beside Magneto. "Ready?" Eric asked. "Yep," I nodded. With a move of his hand, the doors of the house opened wide, as he floated inside the apartment. "Jean," Eric called. "Eric," Jean greeted, her tone unusually cold. "Jean Grey, LV 291. "Hi," I waved at her, getting only a cold glance from her part. "Fair enough. You fear me, everyone does," Jean said, walking towards Magneto, as Vuk came into view, walking behind her. Vuk LV 147. "They fear what they don't understand," Vuk whispered into her ear. "They fear progress, they fear what you are capable of, and want to suppress you, like Charles did, like he wanted to do at the end." He pointed at me. "And you want to use her power to rebuild your extinct race here on Earth?" I shot back, getting a surprised glare from Vuk. "Yes, I know. I know how you are manipulating her, and how you plan to steal her power, to kill all life on this planet, and then terraform it to revive your race." Jones Vuk's face was blank, unexpressive, and even then I knew she was angry, that much I could tell. "Yes." Jones, the other D. Barry in charge, came into view, GVYN LV 95. "Deal with him," Vuk ordered, and Jones, or rather GVYN, nodded. "A 95, well, ain't this gonna be hard, let's go GVYN, I winked at the alien, getting once again a surprised look from both D. Barry. "Jean, would you do the honors?" Vuk smiled as Jean nodded. "Yes," Jean muttered, and with a move of her hand, she blasted me out of the building into the park in front of it, all while I heard GYVN said he would be back. "Are you okay?" Aurora, who was outside, nearby where I landed, asked. "Yes, but you should go with Charles and the rest to help them," I said, grabbing the hand she was offering me. "Are you ready to die, human?" And there he was, my personal ET. "Who is he?" Aurora asked, her hands charging with lightning. "My battle," I replied, patting her on the back. "You help them with the others, he's not the only one." Concerned, she looked at me, biting her lower lip. "Will you be okay?" "Yes," I nodded, smiling at her. "Then kick his ass." Aurora smiled, flying into the house, leaving me alone with GVYN. "You are a fool." GVYN started, "A fool I have to eliminate." "E.T." I boomed at my foe, interrupting him. "Let's save the monologues, and end this. Shall we?" "You are right. Talking with you is a waste of my time, but still. I can't help but wonder, why do you know so much about our plans?" The alien replied, "I suppose I will find out when I break you down. Humans tend to be honest when they scream in pain." I snorted, almost chuckling at the alien's bravado. Yes, it was true, he was more than a few levels ahead of me, but I had experience. If Hydra had taught me something, It was how to kill people stronger than me. Let's see how it applies to aliens. Very well then, I chuckled, shall we? Suddenly, the alien moved, quickly closing the gap between us, darting at me like a predator to its prey, sending a punch to my chest. He was surprisingly slower than me, and that was something I was going to exploit. With a smile I caught the alien's punch as it arrived, throwing him into the ground. But as he landed on the ground, he threw me against a tree with a telekinetic push, enough to lift my body from the ground, but not enough to hold me down for long. After Gene, your telekinesis feels like a party trick, I chuckled, as both I and him circled one another, inspecting each other out, trying to find a way to end this. Then, I'll kill you with my bare hands. Transforming his hand into a sword-like appendage, he took a step forward. Okay, I sighed, dagger at hand, while summoning my gun from my inventory, to add some range to my situation. Die! Gvyn hissed, swinging his arm around. At the predictability of his attack, I ducked under the blade, shooting at him a few times. The bullets seemed to hurt him, but HP-wise didn't do much. One round of 6 bullets had barely taken 1% of his HP. Your human weapons are useless, Gvyn hissed, swinging his arm in a horizontal manner, to which I once again dodged, jumping to the side. How about this then? I smiled, blasting him with a mana arrow at point-blank range. This time, the attack had actually done some damage, and Gvyn was furious at that. I will end you. Faster than I could react, he pulled me closer with his telekinetic push, and pierced me with his sword-like arm. Understandably, I roared in pain. Streams of blood dripping from my wound. I am tired of being impaled. I roared, this time in anger, breaking his sword-like arm in two with a focused strike. Blunt attacks of this caliber will never work on me. Give up now, accept death. Gvyn stated, his arm already back in one piece. Grabbing a pot from my inventory to heal the damage I had received, I growled, give up. Accept death, fuck that, I had no intention of quitting. You are clearly stronger than me, but I am more flexible. I declared, jumping into the air with my telekinesis, charging as much mana as I could in my hands. I wanted to blast him with a powerful mana arrow, and keep doing that while I levitated above his range, but something else happened. Just as I was about to blast the bastard for impaling me, my skill evolved, apparently overcharging the skill with mana had created a new version of it. A current skill has evolved thanks to an specific action. Mana Arrow LV24, Mana Arrows LV25. Mana Arrows, LV25 equals focusing your energy. You fire between 1 and 6 mana arrows at your enemies. Cost 380 MP x arrow, cost equals 380 MP, 2280 MP. Damage based on int and level of skill *1.5 hash of arrows. Damage equals int *skill level equals 165 *25 *1.5 hash of arrows equals 6187.5 37,125. Ha 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 ha, yes. I roared, this time in delight. I loved my power, especially now that I was blasting my 6 arrows at the alien, whose eyes widened in shock. His HP already on the 80%, he stood up, growling. I will end you. Smiling, and looking at my mana, I got into position. Already making calculations how much damage I would have to deal before killing him. Bring it on, E.T. The battle continued, and with each passing second the difference between our strengths became more and more clear. The alien was stronger, more resistant and in general more powerful. But I didn't have to beat him, I only had to kill him. I know that many people think that these two things are the same, but they couldn't be more wrong. Hydra had taught me that, and for a moment I had forgotten it, maybe because I was playing with the heroes, or maybe because I was having fun, but not anymore. You are getting tired, human, the D. Barry commented, his arm twitching in excitement. He wanted to kill me. This ends now. I admitted, manner-wise, I was spent, and the battle had only lasted a few minutes or so. I looked at him, a cold smile on my face as I took a mana potion. The alien hissed, sprinting towards me as I looked around. Cars, trees, civilians, few options, but I really only needed one to work. With a quick sigh, I shot a mana arrow into the ground, momentarily creating a curtain of smoke which I used to dodge him, as I ran towards the freeway. You will not escape. GVYN howled in pure rage, running after me, just as I wanted. With a grin, I looked at the cars stopped in the middle of the road, spotting one with no one inside. Happily, I aimed at the car, smashing the door with a mana bolt. Once near the car, I slid through the door using my telekinesis to increase my speed. Once on the other side, I turned around without stopping, and while GVYN jumped over the car to catch up with me, I pointed at the gas tank with my hands, and with a last grin, I shot a mana bolt at the tank, exploding the car and along with it, GVYN. The explosion was brief but strong, sending me hurtling into the wall of a building nearby, but unlike GVYN, my injuries were minor, and treatable. Well, someone would have to scoop up what was left of him with a spoon. You have level up, Tilda. You have level up, Tilda. 2 levels, neat. I wonder if Charles and Eric managed to convince Jean. I wondered out loud, as I summoned a few of my HP pots to heal the damage I had sustained during this battle. Alex. That voice, Aurora. Hey, I waved at her, drinking the last pot I needed to refill my HP. Are you okay? Aurora asked. I am, Sue. Where is Jean? I asked. Hands of the ground. Fuck my life, the military is here. With barely no MP, and Aurora tired as she was, we surrendered to the military. The only reason I had complied was because it would give me the time to regen my mana, and regroup with the rest. I had first-hand tried the mutant collars before, they didn't work on me. Anyway, after they captured us, we were taken into a train. This is all my fault, Charles started. Not all, but around 25%, the rest is the cosmic force inside Jean, I chuckled, getting a glare from one of the men that were supposed to keep an eye on us. Silence. The man glared at me, and I rolled my eyes at him. In a minute or so, I would have my mana back to full, and would be ready to kick some ass. You disgust me. I suppose, but still. I should never have lied to her. I messed with her mind, like I tried to do with yours. Was Charles apologizing? Well, I guess you learned something with this, I muttered. I guess he did, Eric chuckled. Now, we have to fix this, Raven muttered. I said shut up. The man hit me with his gun. Bitch, they are the ones talking, hit them. I chuckled. The attack hadn't hurt, it was more like a love tap at much, but still, why the fuck had he hit me? I know this might be a long shot, but do you know anything else you haven't told us? Charles asked, and I sighed. No, I shook my head. One more word out of any of you, and I will beat him up. The man growled, pointing at me. Sorry, Aurora muttered, which in turn made the man start to hit me like a madman with his gun like a bat. Okay, that's it. I hissed, breaking the collar of my neck with my telekinesis, as I grabbed the man by the chest. What is your problem with me? They misbehave and I get the beating. Stand down. The other men in the room ordered as I used their friend as my shield. How about, nope? I replied, breaking the collar off Eric's neck. You could have done that all the time. Eric asked, slamming the armed men on the walls of the train as he looked at me, breaking the collars off everyone's neck. I could have, but I was considerably tired, and was waiting for my energy to refill. I answered. I could kiss you right now. Scott cheered happily. No homo. I asked, but he didn't reply. Say no homo. No homo. Scott muttered. Good, we good, I sighed. How come the collars didn't work on, you know what? I am done asking questions, let's go and save Jean, Charles said. The D-Barry are coming, I said, looking at my minimap. We'll deal with them, Eric declared, patting me on the back. Charles, Scott. Raven, wake up the little nuclear bomb. Watch it. Scott hissed. He's not wrong though, I chuckled, as the three Eric mentioned went towards Jean. So, how hard are these guys to kill? Eric asked. Harder than a human being, but not so much. The only one that I would be careful of is the blonde one, for she might or might not have part of the Phoenix Force within her. Blonde one bad, the rest cannon fodder, understood. Eric nodded. I waited with Eric, Beast and Aurora for the D-Barry to breach the train, all while Scott and Charles made their way to Jean's. They are here, I announced, seeing them on the minimap, already on the train. Let's give them hell, Magneto grinned, blasting the train door open, killing one of the D-Barry while doing so. Anka, D-Barry LV-40, Ronk, D-Barry LV-47, Opakio, D-Barry LV-39. I eyed the D-Barry that entered the train and laughed. They were all weaker than me, I kinda expected them to be stronger, like GVYN, he was 30 levels ahead of me. What's so funny? Beast asked. Nothing, I chuckled as I drew my dagger from my inventory, rushing at the aliens ahead. With a grin, I ran towards the aliens, charging my dagger with a focused strike, and using my telekinesis I pulled one towards me, driving the power-charged dagger into his skull, which caused his head to explode, killing him. I then spun with my dagger in hand, cutting the two remaining aliens while dodging their attacks, and as they regenerated, I aimed at them with my hands and fired a couple of mana arrows, blowing their heads off. I'll take the roof, Aurora stated, flying onto the roof of the train through a hole Magneto had made. Hank, help her. Alex and I will take care of the bottom, Eric said with utmost confidence in our abilities. Nodding, Hank jumped behind Aurora, leaving me and Eric alone, as more and more aliens entered the train. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know there were that many, I said, counting the D-Barry, who numbered in the dozens. Soon, they'll be extinct, Eric grinned, levitating all the weapons of the soldiers he had knocked out with his magnetism, aiming them at the aliens. Okay, just don't shoot me, I muttered, looking at the guns hovering in the air. I won't. Eric replied, but then added, maybe. In a barely audible tone. I heard that. I chuckled, blasting the aliens off the train with multiple mana bolts. Charles POV. With the help of everyone, Scott and I reached Jean without any problems, but even then Jean was unresponsive, laying on the table as the battle for her life raged on. Whoever these aliens were, they wanted Jean's power, they wanted her, and that didn't necessarily mean they wanted her alive. Scott, guard the door, I said, as I tried to reach into Jean's mind, once again proving futile. This cosmic force she had within her had made her stronger, and beyond power to reach, but what else could I do? Jean, you need to wake up, we need you. I begged, cursing my own weakness as I did so. I know that what I did was wrong, and I deserve no forgiveness, but, You have to believe me, I was only trying to protect you. By this point, I was forcing myself not to cry. I had hurt her. All of this could have been avoided if only I cared for her as much as I did for my cause. Motherfucker. A scream followed by a blur of motion that was Alex being blasted into our cabin was more than enough to tell me our time was coming short. Alex. Scott muttered, as Alex stood up. Blast, the bitch. Alex gasped, his torso bleeding. Without hesitation, Scott turned to where Alex had come from, and waited until a figure came out of the dust walking, the woman that had absorbed part of Jean's power. Growling, Scott moved his hand to his visor, and blasted the woman, who simply continued walking, ignoring his attack. Behind me, Alex stood up, and from thin air summoned a red drink that shimmered under the moonlight, and without a pause, started drinking it. Wake her up, or we all die. Alex growled, going towards the door to help Scott. Nodding, I turned to Jean, and kept trying to wake her up. I knew I could reach her, maybe not with my powers, but with my words and feelings. 3 minutes earlier, Alex POV. It took us less than 3 minutes to kill every single D-Barry on the train. It was super easy, barely an inconvenience. Most of them were level 40, I alone could have killed them all apparently, save for Vuk and GVYN who were the exception to this level 40 rule. That was super easy, I smiled. Barely an inconvenience, Eric nodded, though, I have still to see the blonde one you spoke of. Didn't you see her with Jean in the house? I asked. Oh, you mean that woman? Oh, okay, I thought you meant blonde, not white-haired potatoes, same shit. Well, when she comes, we'll face her together. Aurora grinned, and as if on cue, a new red mark appeared on my minimap. She's here, I announced, as everyone got into position. With a thunderous landing on the roof, the white-haired bitch, known as Vuk, tore through the ceiling of the train with ease, as if it were made out of paper, and while staring at us she said, I don't want to kill you. Without giving her time to do anything, I shot 6 mana arrows at her, but to my sorrow, she didn't even flinch. On the contrary, she absorbed my attack, and redirected it towards me. Fuck, was all I could say before my own attack, empowered by the Phoenix's force, threw me through the train's compartments like a rag doll. Okay, energy attacks are a no-go, I muttered, drinking a HP potion, while Eric, Aurora and the rest attacked her. Focused strike it is, I sighed, dashing towards her, but before I could reach her, she blasted me once again, this time with her telekinesis with enough strength to make me reach the professor and Scott. Motherfucker! I screamed, unable to slow my fall, even with my telekinesis. Gasping in pain, I looked at Scott, and said, blast, the bitch. I hissed, summoning the last few pots I still had to heal my wounds. All this shit was getting out of control, to the point I wished I was dealing with Hydra instead, humans instead of this. At least I would get to see Scott being blasted by her, so that's a plus. I watched as Scott attacked with his beam, proving to be useless against the power that Vuk now had, who was now level 201, sighing, and somewhat disappointed that she hadn't blasted Scott with his own power as she had done with me. I ran towards her, throwing several focused strikes aimed at her face, but as with everything else so far, Vuk didn't even flinch. Your attempts are futile. Vuk sighed, grabbing me by the neck. You can't blame me for trying. I cracked a smile, drawing my pistol from my inventory to shoot her. Pathetic. Vuk muttered, snapping my arms with his telekinesis. In pain, I fell to the ground, glaring at Vuk in anger. Now, die, and be forgotten. Vuk whispered just for me, her hand once again reaching for my neck, but before she could even reach out to touch me, a telekinetic field appeared around me, Jean's voice echoing in my head. "I will protect my family," Jean's voice said, a bit of a stretch considering what happened. "And those who stood by them. Oh, well, there is my tag. Eat a dick, Vuk." I waved at her, or rather tried, my arms were kinda like a pair of loose noodles. Glaring at Jean, Vuk seemed pissed, and at the same time she seemed helpless, as Jean with a simple move of her wrist sent her flying against the wall like a rag, a nobody, an ant, while at the same time derailed the entire train. And while all of this was happening, I couldn't help but wonder, where was Raven? I mean, last time I saw her, she was with Charles. As if universe itself has decided answering my question, Raven flew past me, in her own telekinetic bubble, courtesy of Jean. Taking a deep breath, I let things played out, as Jean continued to levitate us out of the train while destroying the whole thing, tossing the remains of it into a nearby abandoned location, all while carefully lowering us into the ground as she did so. On the ground, I took a seat trying to be as comfortable as I could with my broken arms, as I decided to simply observe what Jean would do now, since she was the only one who could finish this fight. Without mana, and without HP potions to use, I would only be in the way, her way. Besides, she was now stronger than everyone here put together, she needed no help, maybe the other guys did. Jean Grey LV 399. Vuk, who was the sole survivor of the debris, stepped out of the debris, walking towards Jean, a smile on her face. "You can't control this power." "I can. Stop fighting for something you will never be able to win." Jean glared at Vuk, and with an outstretched hand flew up to her, grabbing her by the neck. "You want this power? Take it," Jean hissed, pumping Vuk with cosmic power. At this I sighed. In the end, Jean would simply die becoming one with the Phoenix Force. Cosmic power floating in the air, Vuk began to disintegrate as a field of the same power formed around Jean and Vuk, eating everything in its path. "You can't kill me, not without killing them." Vuk smiled, appealing to Jean's humanity. "Jean, you don't have to die, just absorb the power she took from you, and then kill her." Not knowing why I interfered, I shouted, hoping she would hear me. Jean looked at me with a smile, and without saying anything she turned to look at the others, her gaze stopping on Charles, who looked at her full of pain, shouting, "Jean! No!" Smiling, Jean lifted Vuk into the air, flying with her into outer space, where I lost sight of her. "Well, so much for saving her," I sighed, looking into the air, aimlessly until a big explosion came, turning the night into day for a brief moment, leaving the image of a phoenix high in the skies. Mandatory quest equals the Phoenix Force. Objective equals the X-Men are about to face their most formidable and powerful foe. Cosmic forces come into play, and the very fabric of reality is at a risk. Help the X-Men during this mission. Fight for the Sake of the world. Reward equals 5 million EXP, $500,000. Psychic immunity. Completed. You have leveled up. So it's truly over. Good. Thanks, Jean, I muttered, looking into the sky. A few days after Jean's death, or rather ascension into godhood, I went to the X mansion to pick Emily up. It was time for me to leave this part of my life. So here I was outside the mansion getting everything ready. "Leaving so soon?" Aurora asked, as she came into view. Yes, I nodded. I have things to do, and this place is no longer safe. Especially considering Charles was closing the X school, and Raven and Beast were also retiring. Here Aurora sighed, handing me a paper. "It's my number." I looked at her, and chuckled. "Are you asking me out?" "What if I am?" Aurora winked. I will be traveling back to my hometown. I need to sort some things out, but when I come back, I would love to hang out. I would love that. I smiled, putting her number on my inventory. Be safe. Aurora smiled. I will. I nodded, getting into the car, checking everything was ready. Where are we going now? Emily asked from the back seat, an innocent smile on her face. I don't know, but it will be awesome. I winked. Alex Walker, I presume. I heard someone say, as I was talking to Emily. Yes. I turned around to see a man I knew very well. My name is Nick Fury, and we need to talk. Nick Fury was many things, but a patient man he was not. And without asking he got in my car when I told him I didn't have time to talk. With a sigh I let him stay while I drove. You're a hard man to find, or should I say you were, before you got involved with the X-Men. Fury began. What does S.H.I.E.L.D. want with me? I asked. Nothing for now, but I'd like to know why you attacked an organization like Hydra. Aren't you afraid to make them your enemy? Fury asked, opening a chocolate bar as he did so. Personal reasons, among them that they tried to enslave me, and that they tried to hurt Emily. I looked at Emily, who was listening to music with the headphones Aurora had bought her. They tried. Fury pressed. They kidnapped me, and tried to break me, to mold me into their image. In the end, it was me who broke them, and I plan to drive them to extinction. I elaborated with a determined look. Fury looked at me, sighing. I don't know whether to believe you and admire you, or doubt you. Fury, believe what you want. I know what I lived through, and I know what I will do, I replied with a smile. I believe you. Fury laughed. Your gaze is that of a man who has killed, who has bathed in blood, but not that of a liar. In fact, you look like a terrible liar. What now? I said. Now I offer you a job, Fury replied. I'm not interested in being the government's bitch, I laughed. Understandable. How about being the part-time bitch? Fury asked. A special agent, to help us wipe Hydra off the face of the earth. Fury, Hydra is everywhere, even in S.H.I.E.L.D. I sighed. Rewind, motherfucker, Fury exclaimed. Hydra is where? In S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know how deep it is, but they have people in charge, agents watching S.H.I.E.L.D's every move. I replied. Fury was quiet for a moment. Are you sure? Yes, I nodded. Motherfuckers. Fury growled. Okay, change of plans, work for me. I looked at him, surprised that he had believed me so quickly. For you. Don't look at me like that. Believe me, I wish I didn't believe you, but like I told you, you're a terrible liar, and you're not lying to me. Besides, out of my gut feeling, S.H.I.E.L.D. being contaminated with Hydra would explain why we didn't realize they still existed. Fury explained. If I work for you, or rather with you, there are a couple of things and favors you must abide by, I said firmly. Which are? Fury asked. No one must know my name. I don't know if Hydra is aware that I'm still alive, but if not, my name would get me hunted, and thus Emily hunted, I replied. 2. I want you to get me and Emily the citizenship under false names. This goes along with point 1. 3. I will not be your slave. My mission is to eliminate Hydra, and that I will do, nothing else, unless the world is ending. Don't call me. And last but not least, no one must know of our agreement. Since I don't know how deep Hydra's corruption is, one of your bosses could be part of them, and send people after me. Very well, Fury nodded. I find that acceptable. Now about money. We'll discuss that later, I chuckled. 2 hours later, I was Tom Maxwell, an American born and raised in the USA, and Emily was Emily Maxwell, my daughter. I didn't want to confuse her with a new name, The new last name was hard enough, though it melted my heart. She asked why was our last name Maxwell and not Walker. Anyway, as per our agreement, Fury kept his end of the bargain, telling no one about me. I would know, for no Hydra or SHIELD agents were around. As for my salary, well, I didn't ask for one, but for a few items, every now and then, guns, knives, swords and more to add to my inventory. Money was really not a problem for me, but finding good weapons was. Anyway, after I settled on New York, I enrolled Emily in a private school, and decided to take a break to analyze in what I wanted to spend my stats points on. After all, once I did, there was no turning back. Nick Fury POV. Alex was a strange man, but so was I. I guess the difference between us was the cards the universe had played on us. Regardless of that, he knew more than I did, at least when it came to Hydra, and while every spy instinct I had wanted me to not believe him, I did, for every human instinct I had told me to do so. If he was right, and Hydra was inside SHIELD, then it would all make sense, how they had managed to keep themselves hidden for so long without us noticing. If he wasn't right, well, the alternative was even scarier, so I didn't want to waste my motherfucking time on it. At least for now, I had someone that hated Hydra even more than SHIELD should. Fury, have you found out who did this? Fella asked, and I shook my head. No sir, my gut was wrong during this case. Whoever did this, is either dead, or hiding very well, I replied. I see. Keller sighed. Any news from the data team? I shook my head once more. They say it would take them a while to recover any data from what we recovered, but we should have something soon. Very well, keep an eye on that, Keller ordered, and I nodded. As you wish sir, I added before leaving. Fury, I heard you had a rough time during your latest investigation, Agent Smith commented. I guess everyone gets their one, and this was mine, I replied with a chuckle. After settling in New York in my new cozy apartment, I decided to change a few things in my life for the sake of Emily. I had to be honest, I had been a pretty crappy dad with her, leaving her in places all in the sake of keeping her safe. But what good would that do if she wasn't happy, or rather if I wasn't there? I guess in a way my thirst for vengeance had consumed me more than I thought. If for a moment I thought eliminating Hydra was more important than her, I guess this entire Dark Phoenix scenario had really taught me something. Seeing Charles and Jean struggle like they did really put things into perspective for me. I needed to be better, not only as a father, but as a warrior. I knew this would be hard, and that I had much to learn, but I wanted to be part of her life. I wanted to see her grow, and not through the eyes of others. Hydra would always be a threat, and even if I eliminated their bases, they would inevitably come back, for as long as a single soldier remained, the organization would come back, meaning my hunt would never end. So with that in mind, I decided to hunt them down at a normal pace, giving Emily more of my time, doing normal stuff, like taking her to school, or buying her ice cream, stuff a dad is supposed to do. Can we go to the park? Emily asked, and I nodded. Sure, I smiled, happy with my new resolution. Enjoying your dad duties, huh? That voice, Fury. Yes, I nodded. About Hydra. Fury began, but I stopped him. I will hunt them down, but I need to prepare. Think of them as a disease. I can't purge them off the earth as I am now, nor can you, but we can prepare, grow, and learn, I said, my eyes on Emily as we crossed the street to the park. And how do we do that? Fury asked. By not rushing into things, I replied. Look, we need more than us to eliminate Hydra, and by us I mean me. You are a normal human, smart, very good at spying, but normal at the end. Hydra is full of people like me. So we need to find more mutants. Fury sighed. Not really, just give me time to prepare, and I will eventually erase them. Besides, we are already winning against them. I mean, we know they exist, which means, we know how to act now. I winked. I suppose that makes sense, but how the F? Fury started stopping at the F, aka fuck word, his eyes on Emily. How the motherfudgering fudge we'll deal with them inside of S.H.I.E.L.D. I will tell you a secret, Fury, because I honestly like you. I chuckled. I can see people's alliances with a simple glance. If you ever need someone to see if someone is working with Hydra, just ask me, and I will tell you. That has to be the most useful power I have ever heard of. Fury whistled in appreciation. I would kill for that. In the meantime, let's pretend we are ignorant and blind. I will play my role as Tom and you play yours as your run-of-the-mill oblivious agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Soon we will kill them right out of this world, soon. I sighed. Well, you are the expert, Fury sighed. Can you push me on the swings? Emily asked as soon as we reached the park. Yes, I nodded with a smile. Well, I will leave you to enjoy the pleasures of being a single dad. Bye. Fury waved at us as he left. Stats. Name equals Alex Walker. Occupation equals the gamer. Level equals 92. EXP equals 38751/450428. HP equals 15500/15500. MP equals 20050/20050. STR equals 175. VIT equals 155. Definite equals 145. DEX equals 195. Int equals 205. Char equals 130. Wiz equals 172. Will equals 140. Per equals 140. LUK equals 101. Stat points equals 860. Money, $580,074. Builds, so many options, and I still couldn't decide. I liked them all, but you know what they say, you either master a path, or master none. I guess if I had to pick a favorite, it would be the warrior path, being able to throw hands with the strongest beings in the universe. Magic was good and all, but I had always liked the warrior route a bit more. I mean, in my case, I would still have magic, but it would not be my primary skill. Well, it's decided, beefy route, here I go. I chuckled. Starting to spend my hard-earned points. Stats. Name equals Alex Walker. Occupation equals the gamer. Level equals 92. EXP equals 38751/450428. HP equals 89800/89800. MP equals 20050/20050. STR equals 469. VIT equals 449. Definite equals 301. DEX equals 321. Int equals 205. Char equals 151. Wiz equals 201. Will equals 175. Per equals 161. LUK equals 101. Stat points equals 0. Money, $580,074. Already from the get-go I felt stronger, like I could break through a wall like it was made out of paper. Now all I had to do was to get a few skills to go with this, mixing my style a little, maybe a sword, oh and some armor, maybe a vibranium armor and an adamantium sword. It's good to dream. I chuckled. Both of those things were extremely hard to find. One was created and the other was protected by Wakanda. But not all the vibranium was in Wakanda, so I at least had a way to find some vibranium, through the sins of another man. I guess I'm stealing from Ulysses Claw. But that for later. I have enough enemies as it is right now, and don't want to add others to the mix, at least not now. Can we watch a movie tonight? Snapping me out of my train of thought, Emily came into the rescue. I wanted to see Snow White, right, 1992. Sure, sweetie, I nodded. Yes. Emily cheered, running into the living room. It could be worse, it could be Frozen. Thank goodness Frozen still doesn't exist. If I hear, let it go one more time, I will kill someone. 3 months later. 3 months had passed since the events of the Dark Phoenix and things had changed a lot. For one, my relationship with Emily had significantly improved, with me giving her more of my time, and more than once I would catch her calling me Dad, which was more than enough to completely melt me. 2. I was taking a more passive approach with Hydra, prioritizing the locating of their bases over their destruction, 4 now, and 3, I was farming stats the old-fashioned way. I mean, yes, I had picked a physical build instead of a magical one, but that was not to say I could still stack my int or other stats to improve my general power. You know what they say, no power is bad power. Also during this time I had decided to become a crafter of sorts, you know, to craft my own items, maybe not on the level Tony would one day do, but enough to make my own shit. I mean, most of what Fury would give me was crap, better than the crap I had, yes, but crap nonetheless. Anyway, with that in mind, I had taken up a new hobby, a dad hobby, you know, those hobbies dads do in their garages. I had one now, and it was crafting. Not gonna lie, at times I feel like having this power, classified as the gamer, was a massive cheat. I mean, all it took me to master the art of blacksmithing was 2 months, and a bunch of books and shit. Of course, this alone was technically nothing. Humans are not the best smiths, not by a long shot. So once I became a master smith by Earth standards, I had to improvise in order to improve. Can we get pizza? Emily asked from the kitchen, snapping me back to reality, which was now located in my garage. We had pizza yesterday, besides there are beans on the fridge. That will suffice for today, I replied, with a chuckle. Okay. Emily muttered, sounding disappointed. Chuckling at her reaction, I took a deep breath and focused on the task at hand, crafting a new weapon. Taking a step into the forge I had installed in my garage, I took an apron and a pair of gloves from my work table. Time to see if this works with a sigh. I took an iron ingot and placed it by the furnace in the forge, letting it heat up while I worked on the mana side of things. You see, I was working on a new crafting way that would, if worked, give me stats on the items I crafted, better stats. Reason why I was pushing mana into the materials like there was no tomorrow. Once done, I turned around to see ingot was sufficiently hot. Taking a deep breath, I fixed a metal wedge between Avil, before using the tongs to take the red-hot ingot. Then I placed it on the wedge, while praying to the gods, please don't break, /. Long story short, the thing broke, again, meaning that if I wanted to craft with magic being part of it, I would need to. One went to Asgard so that I could visit the dwarf that is by no means a dwarf, or keep trying until it works. Stupid mana forge, I can craft a AK-47, but I can't craft a knife with mana capabilities. Entirely different crafting skill. I had a slow learned how to craft weapons, but wasn't into that as much as I was into crafting swords and stuff. What can I say, it had a novelty to it. Can we watch Snow White? Emily asked from the living room, as I internally groaned. Of all the movies she could have possibly fallen in love with, she did with one of the oldest ones. I guess this is the Frozen of this generation, though I wonder why. The movie it's from over 50 years ago. Are you sure you don't want to see another movie? Like the Aristocats? I asked, in the hopes she would pick anything but Snow White. Yes, I love the movie a lot. Being a good parent is torture sometimes. Okay, oh well, at one point I will learn to tune it out, hopefully. I will make some popcorn. Do you want cheese on them? Or lime? Cheese. Emily replied with a giggle. Cheese it is. I chuckled, turning up the stove, to make the popcorn the old-fashioned way. They just tasted better that way. Though Alex, Emily said as she entered the kitchen, when is Miss Aurora coming to visit? I hummed at that. Last time I spoke with her, she was getting into a plane to visit her hometown. Well, she said she would be back soon, I replied, with a smile, patting her head. You know you can call me Dad if you want to, right? Yes, Emily nodded. Good, I smiled, sending her back to the living room. Hurry up, Dad. Emily called as she ran towards the living room. As she left, I couldn't help but wonder how I would protect her from everything that was going to come. Being a parent was apparently a job with a lot of worries, and in the MCU, I had many. If only I could get her a pet to protect her. And then it clicked me, what if I did give her a pet that was by all means able to take on most threats like a pet smart toy? What if I got her a certain alien cat that basically had Xhulhu inside of her? What if I got her Goose, the Flarkin? I mean, the poor female alien cat was abandoned in the Pegasus space. Emily, we are getting a cat. Yes. Emily screamed with delight, running back into the kitchen with a wide smile on her face, that if it was any wider, the joke would sue her. I expected a positive response, but not what I could only describe as a 7-year-old on crack jumping up and down. New quest created. Equals adopt a cat, an alien cat. Goose is the adorable yet deadly Flarkin that was brought to Earth by Marvella Cree as her pet and companion, but after her death, the poor mighty Xhulhu cat was left alone waiting for someone to purr with. Now will you be the one to adopt this adorable civilization-eating cat, giving him a pure effect opportunity, or would you leave it alone to cause a catastrophe? Objective equals befriend the alien cat and add him to your family. Rewards equals a fierce protector that will eat away all your problems, and your tuna, $150, 150 EXP. Failure equals no cat, Emily sad, Goose sad, no purr. So my cash reward was basically an adoption fee. Ha, neat. Oh well, Goose alone was reward enough. Well, tomorrow I'll get to it, but you have to help me take care of it, all right? Yes. Emily nodded so fast, I was beginning to wonder how her head didn't fall off. I guess pets and candy are the drugs for the kids. In this case, pets are crack. That's an analogy I never thought I would use. It took me a month to find the location of the Joint Dark Energy Mission facility because I had to prevent Fury from finding out I was looking for it. He trusted me to an extent, as much as a spy could trust someone, and suddenly asking him where a classified site by SHIELD standards was located could break that fragile trust. Now that I knew where the Joint Dark Energy Mission facility was, all I had to do was break in, adopt Goose, and get out, all without gathering any unwanted attention. So with that in mind, I decided to complete a few dungeons, to gain new skills for this mission, and in less than a week I had already completed 3 of the 10 dungeons that New York had, thus obtaining 3 skills for my use. Savagery LV10, Meditation LV9, Sight LV7, and one I had developed myself, Knockout LV5. Savagery, active, LV10 equals as long as the user continues attacking without interruption with physical blows, each consecutive blow receives an additional 500 pounds of force compared to the previous one. If the chain of attacks are interrupted, then it resets, and the user has to start the count once more. Meditation, active, LV9 equals when used, the user regenerates 1% of total HP and MP per second. Sight, passive, LV7 equals connected to the minimap, the user can see anything within his minimap range as if he was there. Sight can be used at any given time. And last but not least, knockout LV5, it allowed me to knock people down with a single hit if I was at least twice their level. 3 very good skills, especially sight. It was the one thing I envied from Himdall, his ability to see almost anything, and now I had the trial version of it, I guess, still functional though. Time to adopt a cat, I muttered, as I wondered what type of food Goose would like. I mean, he was an alien cat. Talking about food, what type of litter do cats from the Xhulhu dimension use? Okay, questions for later. Emily, I called. Yes, Emily replied, running into my room. I'm gonna go out, Martha is coming, so you know, be on your best behavior. The sitter I had hired was a trained soldier named Martha Sanchez. I offered her a very stable job taking care of Emily and around the house. She was LV32, and was very good at hand-to-hand combat, making her the best babysitter in town, also the most expensive. She costed me like 10k a month, but it was worth it 4 times when I wanted to do some dungeons and stuff. Okay, Emily nodded, giving me a knowing smile. Will you come back with our cat? Maybe. I chuckled, now go and put your pajamas. Yes. Emily giggled, running into her room. With a smile on my face, I ran to the living room to pick up my guns before Martha arrived and saw them. Yes, Emily knew of my guns, but Martha didn't. For what she knew, I was just a rich single dad, being overprotective of his little bundle of joy, and to be honest, I didn't want to clarify. It would only open a can of worms I was not ready to deal with. 2 seconds after I finished picking my guns from the living room, I heard a knock at the door. Mr. Maxwell, it's me, Martha. Opening the door, I greeted Martha with a firm handshake. Hello Martha, make yourself at home. How long will you be gone this time? Martha asked, going straight to the point. A day or 2, I shrugged. Very well, same rules. Martha asked. My rules were simple, no one was to be trusted, and she was to always be armed, in case of something. Nothing had happened, but you know, better safe than sorry. Yes, I nodded. Now, where is the little princess? And in the blink of an eye, Martha's cold attitude changed. Seriously, I am very close to believe Emily's power is being adorable. I haven't met anyone that doesn't like her. Well, Tyler from her art class doesn't, but soon he would not be a problem anymore. Daddy, stop planning Tyler's disappearance, Emily said, narrowing her eyes. I am doing no such thing, I gasped. I was totally doing such a thing, but for now my diabolical plans of finding a way to have him transferred to another school would have to wait, for now. I know that look, Emily muttered, narrowing her eyes even more. Maybe. I relented. Bad daddy, Emily replied, narrowing her eyes even more, to the point they closed. Anyway, take care of my sweet baby, I chuckled, looking at Martha. Will do, Mr. Maxwell, Martha chuckled, as Emily pretended to be blind. Getting to the Mojave Desert in Nevada was super easy, barely an inconvenience. Reaching the facility, well, that was an entirely different matter, but I managed, for all I had to do was reach the facility with my minimap, which was technically not reaching the facility. I mean, it was close, but not that close. Anyway, To reach the facility I had to avoid a bunch of patrols and such, eventually reaching the fence, where I used my minimap to locate Goose. I did not want to go room by room looking for the little catto. The place was huge, enormous, and if I did that it would take me a few hours to search every single room. Let's see, I sighed, using sight as I laid on the ground to avoid being seen. First room, a bunch of soldiers. Second room, 2 girls making out, good for them. Third room, the food court, nice. I continued doing this for every room that had a dot on my minimap. The dots signified a living being inside, or at least sentient, I don't know. The point is where there was a dot, there was someone, until I saw a dot behind me. I will turn and Goose will be there, I muttered, turning sight off as I turned around. Meow. And I was right. Goose LV 266. The alien cat is higher level than me. Well, that is somewhat hurtful, but understandable, but still, almost 200 levels above me. Jesus fucking Christ, hello there. Goose looked at me, and once again meowed. I want to adopt you. You see, I have a little girl that loves cats, and you would be her perfect companion. I don't know what I was doing. Did she even understand me? Goose approached me, and purred. Is that a yes? I need to learn a skill to understand animals. Quest completed. Equals adopt a cat, an alien cat. Goose is the adorable yet deadly Flarkin that was brought to Earth by Marvella Cree as her pet and companion, but after her death, the poor mighty Xhulhu cat was left alone waiting for someone to purr with. Now will you be the one to adopt this adorable civilization-eating cat, giving him a pure effect opportunity, or would you leave it alone to cause a catastrophe? Objective equals befriend the alien cat and add him to your family. Rewards equals a fierce protector that will eat away all your problems, and your tuner, $150, 150 EXP. Oh, thank God, that was a yes. For a moment I thought Goose was considering eating me. Now, please don't scratch Emily, and I will get you all the tuna you can eat, I muttered, grabbing the apparently almighty cat. Goose purred at my touch, meowing in content approval. Adopting Goose was super easy, barely an inconvenience, but now I was worried that perhaps the Flarkin was a bit too powerful, though I suppose if Goose ever misbehaves a muzzle could do the trick to stop her, but still, I never expected the cat to be so ahead of me, a few levels sure, but almost 200 levels ahead of me. It never occurred to me. It was honestly quite shocking, but I suppose if I need someone to protect Emily, Goose is the cat for the job. I doubted anyone could get to her now that Goose was our house pet. Anyway, after finding Goose outside the facility and adopting her, I went back to the house to present her to Emily, who as soon as she saw the Flarkin hugged the ever-living crap of it. Surprisingly, instead of acting like a normal cat, Goose purred, content with the situation. Perhaps that was where Flarkins and Earth cats differed. I'll see you next week, Martha. I waved at Martha as she left the house. Now that I was alone, well, alone without Martha, it was time to level up, and what better way to do so than the new dungeon I had found in New York, a dungeon of my level. I know, shocking. I had found it on my way back from getting Goose. In a way, the dungeon was hidden, but now, I knew where it was, and it was time to finally level up in a dungeon. Well, I'm off to buy some food. Do you want anything? I asked Emily. Ice cream. Emily smiled, Goose purring in content on her arms. Not food, but sure, I chuckled, turning my gaze to Goose. Goose, if anyone that is not me comes, eat then. Okay. Goose purred loudly as if saying yes sir, as Emily giggled, how can she eat someone? She's a tiny adorable cat. Silly dad. Well. I clicked my tongue, How was I supposed to explain this to her? You see, Goose is not your run-of-the-mill cat, he is a super-powered one. In short, he has the tools to back up the ego most cats have. Emily looked at Goose, beaming with even more happiness. I have a super cat? She asked, confirming what I had just said. Yes, and you know the drill, I reminded her. No one can know, Emily repeated. Good, now, I'm off to buy tuna for Goose, and food for us, I smiled, patting her in the head, and then Goose, who was staring at me with a look that said, I deserve petting too, pet me or I shall throw a fit. Remember to bring the ice cream, Emily reminded me, as I opened the door of the house to leave. Worry not, I shall bring thy ice cream, Princess Emily, I bowed with a wink. I shall await for you, my knight, Emily giggled, as I closed the door. At the grocery store, I picked all the stuff I needed for Goose and Emily, before going to the cash register, a normal day, until I saw something, or rather someone, a Hydra agent tailing me. Robert Cromwell V28, Hydra agent. If there is something I am glad for is my ability to see titles. God, I love this shit. Anyway, Robert the Hydra agent was following me like a stray dog after you petted him once on the street, tailing my every move from a relatively safe distance. The question now was, when did Hydra find out about me? Again. Perhaps Fury informed someone of my location and that someone was, unbeknownst to him, part of Hydra, or perhaps someone followed Fury when he visited me last time and now they know where I am. Who knows? I guess I will find out soon enough when I have a heart-to-heart with my ex-colleague, which meant I would have to do the dungeon another time. Outside the supermarket, I put the groceries in my car, and got in it, driving to the mall, as Robert tailed me with his car. Seriously, who trained the guy? Even a blind idiot would see he is following me. Well, I suppose not all Hydra agents can be as efficient as I was. Parking my car in a pretty desolate area, I walked to the mall. As Robert followed me, with a smile, I made a turn around and winked at the man, who for a moment stood still. Then getting into position, I sprinted towards him at full speed, which I turn made the Hydra agent try to run. Unfortunately for him, I was way faster than him, and catched up with him. Right hand on his neck immobilizing him, and the left one on his mouth. I ripped the suicide pills from his mouth like taking grapes from the stem. Now that you can't die because you fucked up, tell me, why are you here? I asked with a smile, taking my left hand from his bleeding mouth. Dropping the suicide teeth on the ground. I will tell you nothing. Robert hissed as I smiled. Oh, don't worry little bird, eventually, you all sing, I smiled, dragging the man into my car, not without breaking his arms and legs first, to avoid any opposition on his part. I wonder if little Emily is safe. Robert muttered with a weak smile, trying to aggravate me, but instead of that, all he did was make me chuckle. Oh, you poor little thing, I snorted, if only you knew. Emily POV. An hour after Daddy left to buy some groceries, the bad guys came for me. They were once again after us. Why couldn't they leave us alone? What did we do to deserve this? Come, little girl, one of the bad guys approached me, but before he could touch me, Goose came into view yowling at them. Stupid see, before he could finish that sentence, Goose opened her mouth beyond what should be possible, and several tentacles rushed at the man, swallowing him whole. What in the fuck? The other two men that had entered the apartment muttered as Goose rushed at them, hissing. I arrived at the house with the Hydra agent that tailed me gagged and cuffed in the back of my car. He would later have to answer a few questions, but that was for after I made sure Emily was okay. Emily. I called as I walked through the door of the house, seeing Goose in front of the door sitting menacingly, like good girl. Dad. Emily cried out moments later, crawling out from under the couch. Bad people came after me, but Goose ate them," she exclaimed. I looked at her with a sigh, noticing that she was a bit scared with the situation, her lips trembling and her eyes full of tears. Gently I walked over to her, crouching down to her level. "Don't worry, everything will be fine," I promised her. It was after all time for Hydra to understand that they shouldn't mess with me or my family. I might not be able to eliminate them for good, for their numbers were too vast, and their connections ran too deep, but I would show them that even with all their power and influence, they had to fear me. Besides, I still owed Edward, my first friend at Hydra, a visit, a heart to hear, so to speak. Grabbing my phone, I called Fury, who answered right away. "Fury, did something happen?" Fury asked on the other end of the line. "Why do you ask?" I answered. I knew he hadn't betrayed me. Fury was many things, but a traitor wasn't one of them, but still, it was worth asking. "Well, you don't ever call me, so, yeah," Fury replied with a laugh. "What bitch do we have to kill?" "Tell me a Hydra bitch." Holding back the urge to laugh, I replied, "Yes, Hydra tried to break into my house and kidnap Emily. They also sent someone to tail me, that one I caught, and I have him cuffed and ready for interrogation. The ones who broke into my house, those are dead." Fury was quiet for a moment, probably thinking of what to say. Someone must have followed me, but who? Not necessarily. Last time I got caught because Hydra has some type of bloodhounds that detect mutants by scent or something, so anything is possible, I replied, thinking if I could develop a skill to prevent that from happening. "I'll be at your house in 2 hours, if you can't wait there, go to my hideout under the abandoned train," Fury replied. "Don't worry, I'll wait for you here, but if I need to change locations I'll let you know," I replied, hanging up the phone. "Where are we moving to now?" Emily asked, her shaky voice making me feel worse than I already did about the situation. I wanted to give her a normal life, but sadly that would never be possible. Hydra had taken that away from us. They were a disease that was impossible to fully cure, at least in the span of a human life. "Don't worry, as long as I'm here, nothing will ever happen to you," I smile at her, giving her a big hug. "I'm scared. I don't want to lose you." Emily hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face. Hydra was a disease for which I had no cure yet, but everything in this universe had a cure, and with the snap of a finger I could cure the earth of this cancer, forever. But before that, I had to become stronger, for I would not be the only one after such power. An hour and 30 minutes later, Fury arrived at my apartment, ready to help. By that time, I had already managed to put Emily to sleep so that I could talk with Fury freely, leaving her with Goose in her room, both sleeping on the bed. "Where are the bodies?" Fury asked, as he entered the apartment. "My cat ate them. Now, we need to discuss how to attack Hydra," I said, taking a seat in my living room. "Wait a fucking minute," Fury said, holding up a finger. "Your cat did fucking what?" "He ate the intruders," I replied, holding back the urge to laugh. "A cat?" Fury muttered. Is the cat a fucking mutant too?" "No, it's an alien," I replied. Almost as if feeling she had been summoned, Goose went down to the living room to get some water from her bowl. "That cat?" Fury pointed his finger at Goose. "Yes," I nodded. "Okay," Fury said, taking a couple of steps away from Goose. "She won't eat you," I chuckled. Everyone says that about their pets, and boom, next thing I know, I end up in the litter box, so yes, I don't fucking want to go near him. "Huh," Fury replied, looking at Goose as if the cat was a nuclear weapon. "Huh," I corrected him. "Well, outside of the clearly terrifying cat you have, we have an organization to attack." Fury cleared his throat to reinforce the point. We have nothing to do, I corrected him. You have a role to play. If you keep up the way you're going, you'll soon be the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., and in that position you'll be able to do more than what you can right now as agent. I on the other hand have nothing to play, so all I need from you is information and resources, and I'll take care of the rest. I don't like that, but considering you have a human-eating cat that can take a trained group of assassins like cat snacks, I reckon you are right. Fury sighed. Right now, all I need from you is a jet. I nodded. I am an agent, not fucking Tony Stark. Fury stated. I don't have jets on my garage. No, but, you know where the best ones are. I grinned. I see. Fury laughed. You are one tricky motherfucker. Fine, I'll find the best one, and let you know where it is, just don't get caught. He chuckled. I doubt anyone from S.H.I.E.L.D. can catch me. I chuckled. Maybe Black Widow, but only because she seems like a resourceful gal, but even her I doubted. I wonder what level she is. With Fury's help, I was able to infiltrate Stark Industries, stealing one of the jets they had for sale. Then I began to fly said jet, with Fury hiding my tracks from military radars with his S.H.I.E.L.D. credentials. As I flew around the country, marking Hydra bases I would find on a map as I found them. I won't lie, I love my map function, is probably the best function of my power, by a long ass shot. After I had all the Hydra bases in the USA marked on my map, I threw the stolen jet into the sea with a handmade bomb courtesy of Fury timed to explode in a few hours. I wanted to be sure no one would track the jet's disappearance back to me. The USA alone had no less than 100 bases, and a bunch of small, safe houses, meaning it would take me years to purge every single base. No, what I needed was to target the biggest ones, leaving a message to them to not bother me anymore. Which is why, right now, I was outside the biggest base so far, using sight to determine how dangerous this particular base was. So far nothing to worry about. Like any other base, it had a bunch of soldiers, nothing that would make me sweat, at least. That was until I reached the basement, where a bunch of high-level individuals were frozen in place, quite literally. What in the fuck are the Winter Soldiers doing there? I muttered in a bit of shock. I mean, if I remembered correctly, they were supposed to be in Siberia. I mean, at least they stated that on Captain America, Civil War, so why were they here? Had they moved them? Joseph LV-94, Alexander LV-84, Friedrich LV-86, Walter LV-90, Anna LV-87, Bucky Barnes LV-135. Well, fuck me, this changes everything. Now instead of busting inside their base 90s action movie style, I need to infiltrate and kill those popsicles bastards before they can get activated. Save for Bucky, I reckon Charles can help me help him with the brainwash. Well, time to infiltrate. It was relatively easy to infiltrate the base, considering I worked for Hydra, and knew a bit about their security systems. Granted, the security system they had in place was different, and the base was considerably bigger than the one I used to reside in, but in the end I managed, all thanks to sight. All I had to do was watch the soldiers use the codes, and use them myself. Worst case scenario, the codes don't work, and I have to run as far away as possible. Now once inside, it was all a matter of not being caught, which I had solved by killing a random agent that had crossed my path during my infiltration with knife to the throat, and then like in a cartoon, I stripped him butt naked, and took his clothes. They were a bit tight, but they would suffice. Now I was hidden in plain sight, sometimes the best place to hide if you ask me. People always overlook what's right in front of them. However, regardless of my trust on this plan, I was using sight to avoid being caught. I basically had an eye on the surveillance room at all times, and one on the path I was taking. It was like looking left and right at the same time. It was hard, but it was safe. Also, every now and then I would switch to see the body of the agent I had killed to verify no one had discovered the corpse. And like that, I traversed through the base without being caught. Granted, it took me longer than I would have liked, but I did it the safe way. Now all I had to do was figure out how to open the room where the Winter Soldiers were, something I was trying to do while I hid in one of the broom closets. Using sight, I found a vent that led into the room, big enough for me to crawl in and break into the room, a ventilation vent I supposed, but just to be sure, I followed the vent to its starting location, finding a gas tank, probably there in case they needed to force the Winter Soldiers to sleep. This alone brought a bunch of difficulties. If they gassed the room, I would be captured, meaning going into the room without a clear exit was a suicide. No. I had to find the key to the room, but where to look? The place was massive, it had hundreds of rooms. Finding that even with sight would be a pain in the ass that would take me hours, perhaps even more. And that was assuming I had the time. I mean, considering I had killed someone to hide in plain sight, that body would eventually be discovered, leading into a full lockdown, and possible activation of Bucky. In short, I had but one option: enter the room within the hour, or risk a fight I am not sure I can win. I mean, Bucky alone is one thing, but the entire base, plus Bucky, I don't think I can handle that. Heck, I am not sure I can handle Bucky alone altogether. I should learn how to hack eyesight. If only I knew how to hack, this entire dilemma would be nothing but a minor inconvenience at best. Taking a deep breath, I used sight on the room where they were keeping the Winter Soldiers, seeing two men enter the room followed by a bunch of other people. They were talking about something, in German, so I was completely clueless. Hydra never taught me German. I know, stupid considering they origin from Germany. Then again, they probably didn't want knowing too much. Then, all of the sudden their conversation ended, and they moved Bucky out of the room as they left, leaving only the other Winter Soldiers. Now I had to decide, do I, 1, follow Bucky and the men that took him, or 2, stay and kill the other Winter Soldiers? Well, it's for this video. Hope you guys like the video. Like, share and subscribe. And also comment if you have any recommendation for the future upload.